This video is centered around the coaching of the power clean exercise. The power clean is a multi-muscle, multi-joint lift that takes the bar from a static position to a standing position in front of the shoulders in one motion. Uclan et al. Believes it to be one of the best exercises available for developing rate of force development and strength speed qualities. The basis of all sporting movements is the application of power through the triple extension of ankle, knee and hip whilst maintaining control of a stable trunk. I'm 32 years old and I play football for a local team where we train once per week and play on a Saturday. In terms of weightlifting, I have around 5 years experience, but it wasn't until I started working with a coach in 2017 in preparation for my UKSCA accreditation that I started to improve considerably with my lifting. Since my accreditation in 2018, I've also acquired my British weightlifting level 1. I've coached 2 weightlifters and have also coached weightlifting derivatives in team environments. I did have a knee arthroscopy in 2016 after a torn meniscus, but after a progressive rehab program, I've had no further issues since. The current season is suspended, allowing for varying volumes of work to take place without the concern of excessive fatigue going into a match. With reference to the technical models set out by the UKSCA and British Weightlifting, here is a quick summary of the stages of the lift. Starting with the setup, feet flat on the floor, hip width apart, knees in front of the bar, hips higher than knees, back is flat, head is up, and shoulders are level or just in front of the bar. Bar is also level with the first lace hole of the shoe. Hands are slightly wider than shoulder width with a hook grip employed. Onto the end of the first pull. Hips are still higher than knees. Upward movement is caused by extension of the knees. There is a maintenance of a constant trunk angle that's relative to the floor. Arms are still straight. Back is flat with the bar constantly increasing in speed. I found that many issues arise in the lift due to an inefficiency in the first pull. Onto the transition to the jump position. The trunk rises with the arms still straight. The bar travels up in preparation for the second pull with triple extension of hips, knees and ankles. At this point, the knees are slightly flexed. The bar is about to make a brushing contact with mid-thigh, allowing for rapid vertical acceleration, and the pressure is through the midfoot. Onto the second pull with triple extension. The hips, knees and ankles are extended. Peak force, RFD, power and bar velocity are at their highest values right now. Shoulders move into a violent shrug. Bar moves up in front of the body. There is actually a slight inconsistency here from the athlete, as usually we want to see the arms still straight with the elbows turned out. And finally, the catch position. The athlete drops under the bar to receive it. His feet reposition into a squat stance. Bar is received onto the shoulders in a front squat position with around a quarter or a half of squat depth. The athlete then stands up with the bar. Here is the session overview. For the warm-up, I will be following Ian Jeffrey's ramp-based protocol where we look to raise heart rate, body temperature and muscle temperature, activate the relevant musculature, mobilise the relevant joints and potentiate neuromuscular tissue. The session will be taking place in the garden, so due to the cold weather at this time of year, the warm-up will be split between inside and outside. All the low-intensity mobility work will take place inside before progressively intense work taking place outside. There is some potentiation work that will also aid in raising heart rate. This will be in the form of various jumps. We'll then work up to 70 kgs on the power clean from an empty bar of 20 kgs. As I haven't done too much Olympic lifting myself over the last year or so, I'm setting the weight at a very moderate total. My 2 rep max for the power clean is 95 kilos, but this was set back in 2018. So starting with the mobility work inside, I'm mainly aiming this work at my hips and shoulders, looking at big range of movement through internal and external rotation at both joints. This is due to my own feelings of tightness around the musculature at these joints. Just one set of 5 reps for each side on all exercises here. When coaching the athlete, I would use this time to have an informal chat, or depending on the athlete's preferences, perhaps leave them to have this time to focus or listen to their choice of music. I'd keep the environment here as relaxed as possible. In terms of the mobility exercises, I would adjust these depending on the athlete's needs or their own preferences. This is an elbow pointing exercise that acts as a good test for an athlete's ability to get into that front rack position. So does the athlete have a decent ability to extend through the thoracic spine? How much range does the athlete have here? Is there any tightness at latissimus dorsi and the rotator cuff tissues? Because of the lack of rotation at the trunk, this would suggest that everything's okay. One set of 5 reps of front squat. This exercise should be a standard inclusion into a weightlifter's clean warm-up. Range looks good here, depth looks good as well, so I'm happy. One set of 5 reps on the Romanian deadlift. We're greasing the groove movement-wise here. Again, we're trying to keep the mood here relaxed. Usually I wouldn't allow a hat to be worn, but hey. Right, 1 set of 5 on the push press. There aren't any overhead movements in the session, but this exercise aids in activation and maintaining heart rate to keep warm. Pogo jumps are an exercise that will elicit a fast stretch shortening response and fire up the neuromuscular system. In terms of coaching this, I'd want the athlete to get progressively higher in terms of height throughout the set. Broad jumps, although it requires a large amount of horizontal force, I find it gives the athlete a fair indication of where their concentric force is in general. And then the counter movement jump, vertical force, again, same reasons, it gives the athlete a fair idea of where they're at. Yeah. Onto the complex of 5 first pulls, 5 high second pulls, and 5 drop and catch from the hip. I find that segmenting these 3 exercises allows for any discrepancies in technique to show. If more time is needed in any of these exercises, then we would spend more time practicing that particular component. The first pull arguably looks a little off centre here, but I would give the athlete the benefit of the doubt. There is no weight on the bar currently. Be asking how the athlete is feeling at this point, and are there any issues, etc. I'd also want the athlete to make sure they are snapping right underneath the bar as quickly as they could. Okay, first set of 3 power cleans. Eyes are down at the floor on setup. Again, I would wait to see if the athlete does this with weight on the bar. Also, this first pull looks really slow and deliberate. I'd probably ask for a little bit more speed at this point. Okay, 40 kgs, 3 reps. Eyes are now forward. Setup looks a little better. You can see the athlete is making sure he is thumbing off the way grip-wise on each rep. This suggests that he may be in his head around his setup, and maybe this is why the first pull is a little slower. At this point, I'd say to him, don't overthink it, just flow. I want to have a look at the side, as it looks as if the athlete wasn't getting into triple extension in the second pull. Specifically, he is not extending at the ankles. The weight at this point feels light for the athlete, so without overanalyzing, we'd wait to see whether this is still an issue at a heavier weight. 60 kilograms. I asked the athlete to perform 2 high pulls before 3 power cleans. This was to ensure that we were getting triple extension in ankles, knees and hips. The cue that I gave the athlete on the pulls before the first rep was get your shoulders in the sky to elicit more of a shrug and a whole body extension. The athlete catches the bar high on all 3 reps. This suggests the athlete will be able to attempt 70 kilograms. Okay, side angle now at 60 kilos. I wanted to check to see whether the athlete did get into triple extension and that there is a shrug involved. Okay, good. First one, yeah. And the second one, okay. Let's see whether this alters a little bit in the power clean. So when he sets up, I always say, imagine you've got oranges in your armpits. Okay, it doesn't quite extend. So what I mean by the oranges in the armpits is, imagine you're trying to squeeze juice from the oranges in your armpits. That means we get decent extension through thoracic spine. There we go. This all suggests that the weight is fairly light for the athlete with the catch and everything, so we will go up, definitely. With the review of the second pull on rep 2, you can see the left heel off the ground and the right heel almost still in contact with the ground. There's a lack of shoulder elevation as well. I'd reinforce the cue of shoulders in the sky before the next set. 70 kilograms now, so you can see the athlete heading inside for his last rest period. So 3 minutes out to maintain muscle temperature. No such luck for the cameraman. I'd still try to keep the athlete relaxed during the rest and then give them a 30-second warning to get them ramped up. Language at this point would be all positive reinforcement. This is actually meant to be a 2-rep set, but the athlete wanted to try and get a third. So, here we go. Yeah, easy. Easy. Yep. You can see that the athlete here displays flexion in the right elbow just during the transition phase before the second pull. I would make him aware of this at this point, and I would show him the video, but then I would ensure that his mind is on the next set. 80 kgs, 2 reps. Again, the athlete heads inside for his rest period. Due to the lack of weights on site, the athlete has to go up by a full 10 kilograms. We're already at a heavier weight than predicted. I'm happy for the increase in weight. The athlete seems confident, so I'd be getting him hyped up at this point. All positive reinforcement. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Nice high catch on the first one. Right, let's see. Okay, getting himself set up for number 2. Okay, just about gets under there. Looks as if he's slow to drop under. So you can see he doesn't quite snap under and get the elbows through for the ideal catch on the shoulders. I would show the athlete and then say shoulders in the sky and then snap. 2 reps at 90. Athlete wants to go heavier. I'm happy as well as he's getting plenty of height on the bar, but we need to see the athlete drop under quicker, emphasizing that snap to him in the rest. All about the hype now though. Let's go, let's go. Come on, you got it. So you can see the athlete has put the requisite force on it to get height on the bar, but he's just not pulling himself underneath. This is where I would chat to the athlete to ascertain whether there's a confidence issue there before attempting the next set. So athlete wants to make a second attempt at 90. I'd be using all positive language at this point, basically saying that, you know, he got the power on the last set, you can drop underneath it, you've got the force here, come on. So even though he hasn't been at this weight for about 2.5 years, I'd be making sure that he's got the motivation to do this. Come on. No. So this isn't an issue to do with the height. It's obviously an issue to do with catching this weight. All right. So the best course of action here is to probably drop the weight and work at his snap underneath the bar. We're dropping to 70 kilograms to perform some hang cleans, a smaller range of movement on this exercise, forcing the athlete to snap under the bar. Athlete has identified that this will be the last set here. He's starting to feel fatigued. There we go. Yeah. Getting under the bar, so it's obviously not the issue of the weight at this particular set. And the athlete performs a couple of front squats. Yeah. So the issue around the catch seems to be confidence-based, so it's definitely something to work towards. Okay, summary of the session. Was the warm-up too long? For an athlete over 30, I think he'd have a fair idea of what's needed. The potentiation work for this athlete was an indicator to readiness or overall feeling before. The athlete felt the jumps were similar to a regular fresh effort, i.e. the broad jump was roughly at 2 meters 20, as indicated by the rough bar length. The power clean would be programmed at the start of the session when the athlete would be neurally at their most energized. The plyometric work can precede the weightlifting work. So where does the power clean fit into the macro cycle? Well, this all depends on volume and intensity. This exercise can be programmed all year if it is used correctly. Coaches need to be aware of their athlete's ability in the lift and of the central nervous system fatigue that can be incurred and must be accounted for in the competitive season specifically. Currently, the Athletes League is suspended, so we were able to add additional volume on agreement from both parties. Interestingly, a study by Uclan et al. Found that even up to intermediate lifters, athletes can actually increase their vertical jump and acceleration by using moderate to heavy loads on the power clean. This suggests that the exercise can elicit positive performance gains for a significant number of athletes. Just on the athlete's progress moving forward, this athlete will need to perform technical work around the second pull and the catch moving forward. Regarding the athlete's issue around confidence of dropping under the bar, he's going to have to approach this using small increments approaching 90 kilos. I think the fact that the athlete had to jump by 10 kilos perhaps played a little bit with his confidence of dropping under the bar, but definitely something that needs to be worked towards with small increments.